Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're gonna see what the king of the Snowflakes has been up to lately. Yep, we're talking about Mr. Full MacIntosh. So, take it away, Commander Snowflake. Enjoy!
During your travels around the internet, you may have bumped into the term toxic masculinity.
Oh, I don't know about that, but you sure go on about it a lot.
It usually shows up in connection with particularly abusive male behavior, so things like harassment, homophobia, sexism, or violent outbursts.
What you're describing is just being a douchebag. They can be male or female. Normally you guys lose your shit when you hear a gendered term, but you want to put this one on men just because it's negative? How much do you hate yourself?
But what does it really mean?
Oh, I don't know, a new self-flagellation method for you? Could we see your whips in the next video?
Now, since there tends to be so much confusion,
there's too much confusion, I can't get no relief,
and defensiveness surrounding these two words, I think we might need to start off with a really clear example. You know, something that we can all agree on.
You say something we can all agree on, and then you literally bring up someone who splits the country right down the middle. Great going, Einstein. While I have no doubt that all SJWs will vote for the left, I have to assume that you want to reach at least some people outside your echo chamber? Or is this just for the purpose of virtue signaling within your community?
Okay, yeah. But honestly, I think he needs his own video, so maybe something else we...
What do you think you're doing?
Okay, that's gonna work. This charming fellow is Biff from the Back to the Future series.
Yes, and he's the bad guy of the movie. Of course you're gonna hate him. He's written so that there's absolutely nothing to like about him.
Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Huh? Think, McFly, think!
Okay, so let's start with the word masculinity itself. Very broadly speaking, masculinity is a set of behaviors and practices that have traditionally been associated with men and manhood in our culture, and that includes both positive and negative things. Toxic masculinity, on the other hand, is a loose term that's used to refer to a subset of those behaviors which are harmful or destructive.
Well, in that case, when are you going to be talking about toxic femininity?
It's often used as a sort of shorthand to describe behaviors linked to domination, humiliation, and control.
Well, that got kinky in a hurry. Stop BDSM shaming.
Of course not. This isn't a veterinary hospital. Zing!
It's marked by things like emotional detachment and hypercompetitiveness.
Look, Biff, somebody already asked me to the dance.
That bug George McFly?
I'm going with Calvin Klein, okay?
Calvin Klein? No, it's not okay. You're going with me, understand?
Get your cooties off of me!
When are you gonna get it through your thick skull, Lorraine? You're my girl.
Yeah, nice straw manning. Biff is still the bad guy. And besides, have you forgotten that this is a movie recorded 30 years ago about something that took place 30 years before that? Even if this was acceptable behavior in the 50s, which it wasn't, it certainly isn't now. This is just not a relevant example of anything.
It's also connected to the sexual objectification of women as well as other predatory sexual behaviors.
You know you want me to give it to you.
Shut your filthy mouth. I'm not that kind of girl.
Well, maybe you are and you just don't know it yet.
It's also linked very closely with aggression, intimidation, and violence.
You want to take a poke at me?
Damn it, Biff.
The modifier toxic is used to highlight the fact that these kinds of behaviors carry with them some potentially serious and even deadly consequences.
And yet you're using a cardboard cutout movie villain as your example. Are you just tilting at windmills here or what?
Brain damage is not only possible, it's likely.
Much of this type of masculinity is relational, and as such, it's mostly defined in opposition to anything culturally associated with women.
Yes, because all the women's is good. All women are always angels all the time, no exceptions.
Which is why toxic masculinity is driven by this overwhelming fear of emasculation. That is to say, the fear of being perceived by others as feminine and therefore unmanly.
Now there's a subject you know all about.
You're a wuss. Don't worry, your secret's safe with me. Hey, Wilson!
Guess what Foreman just did?
Many of the most popular male heroes in movies are depicted as engaging in at least a few of these toxic behaviors.
Yeah. Now let's both play.
But because they're the good guys, their actions are framed as admirable displays of strength, power, and manhood.
Dink, meet Felix Leiter.
Hello.
Felix, say hello to Dink.
Hi, Dink.
Dink, say goodbye to Felix. Man talk.
Wow, you managed to find some sexism in a movie that was recorded 50 years ago. For fuck's sakes, dude, this movie was recorded before women's lib had even happened. Hell, the civil rights movement hadn't even concluded.
It's like Doc's
Yeah,
always
I
saying.
know. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
And even when
Oh my god, a teenage boy looks at girls. Holy shit. Someone put him in jail.
those behaviors are not celebrated, it's often framed as acceptable or normal and then excused as just guys being guys or boys being boys.
Are you retarded? This entire scene exists to show that he's not normal, that he's a fucking weirdo.
Can I shoot him now?
Just to make sure there's no misunderstanding, I want to make something absolutely clear. This term is not a condemnation of men or manhood.
Yes, it is, because if there's toxic masculinity, then there must also be toxic femininity. And since you guys won't acknowledge that, it is a condemnation of masculinity.
Because again, toxic masculinity only refers to a particular set of harmful actions and cultural practices.
Doubt it.
Alright, let's study this list then. Emotional detachment is not an inherently negative trait. In fact, you'll need it if you're a doctor or a fireman or an EMT or something like that. Hyper-competitiveness, okay? You think the Olympic athletes would have gotten to where they are without that? So also not an inherently negative trait. Aggression. That's also not inherently negative. You can aggressively pursue justice, for instance. I will agree that intimidation and violence are negative things. And then we have sexual objectification, which is such a nebulous term that it's almost pointless, but I'll at least agree that it doesn't have a positive connotation. And to finish it off, we have sexually predatory, which again is a very fussy term. What does it mean exactly? But like before, it doesn't sound like a good thing. So the tally is then that about half your points are bullshit. Why would you want to use a term that has a nutritional value of 50% bullshit?
And none of those behaviors are inherent or biological traits of men.
And yet you refuse to acknowledge a female version of that term.
There's nothing toxic about just being a man, but some men do act in toxic ways. So in other words, toxic masculinity is not something that men are, rather, it's something that some men do.
For fuck's sakes, you retard, it's something that some people do.
Oh, snap.
Alright, so let's return to our friend Biff here. Now, Biff is an obvious buffoon. I mean, he's a schoolyard bully, he's like a cartoon villain. His actions are easy to spot and understand as damaging, because really, toxic masculinity is what defines him as a character.
You heard him, girls. Party's over.
At every point in Back to the Future, there might as well be a giant neon sign hanging over Biff's head that says, hey, this is the bad guy.
Well, if you were aware of this, then why the fuck did you use such a stupid fucking example, you dipshit?
So that's really easy. But things are rarely so clear-cut. In the real world, all kinds of men can participate in toxic masculinity, including seemingly normal guys who might also be nerdy or charming or witty or intelligent.
Or female, you fuckhead.
Since toxic masculinity is a set of behaviors and not a biological trait, the real men who participate are not really one-dimensional character archetypes like Biff, and they usually don't do all of the things on the list. Okay, well, sometimes they do, but usually that's not the case.
Do you really think Donald Trump is going around beating people up?
Your first instinct, you just want to slap him. And I was beginning to lose my patience with these people. This is your version of reality? It becomes almost pathetic.
There's a mistaken impression out there that toxic masculinity means that everything about masculinity is somehow toxic. But that is not the case.
Again, it's just fucking impossible to take you seriously when you will only gender negative terms.
In fact, the term toxic masculinity is used very deliberately to try to differentiate the more damaging or destructive male behaviors from more positive male behaviors. When it comes to this term, it's really important to understand that it's used to reinforce the fact that there are many different types and formulations of masculinity, or as R.W. Connell puts it, different masculinities.
Well, if a woman said it, then it must be the truth, right? All women are angels.
And since there are many ways to practice masculinity,
Oh my goodness, oh my gosh, I think we've gone full MacIntosh. Oh my goodness, oh my gosh, I think we've gone full MacIntosh.
Hey, moron! Fucking moron! Masculinity is not a religion. You retarded fucking cum stain.
we as men can choose not to engage in the more toxic behaviors and instead choose to pursue more positive, empathetic, and cooperative forms of masculinity.
Oh dear God, the religion of feminism strikes again. Why don't you go out and practice your masculinity, you fuckhead?
The guy will have sex with his wife again. He'll hug his kid again. Hopefully that's the combination he was using. Be a shame if I cured a pedophile.
Anyway, that concludes our show for tonight, so thanks for watching and see you next time.